Saint Jerome, Latin in full, Eusebius Hieronymus pseudonym Sophronius, was probably born sometime in the early 340s Common Era in the town of Stridon in Dalmatia, modern Yugoslavia. Jerome was born in a well-to-do Christian parents. His education began at home, was continued in Rome when he was about 12. There he studied grammar, rhetoric, and philosophy. A serious scholar enamored of Latin literature, he frequented the catacombs and near the end of his Roman education was baptized, probably by Pope Liberius. In 375, Jerome began a 2-year search for inner peace as a hermit in the desert of Chalcis. He spent almost 3 years, 379 to 382, continuing his pursuit of scriptural studies. He lived for a time as a hermit until ordained as a presbyter in Antioch in 379. Some major literary works of Jerome. The literary legacy of Jerome's lasted 34 years in Palestine. It is the outgrowth of contemporary controversies, Jerome's passion for scripture, and his involvement in monastic life. Jerome's biblical production in Bethlehem includes 2 introductory works, helpful to biblical scholars. Liber Locorum, Book of Places, a useful translation and adaptation of Eusebius' work on Palestinian place names, and Liber Interpretation is Hebraicorum Nominum, Book of Interpretation of Hebrew Names, an alphabetical list with quite fanciful etymologies or origins of Hebrew proper names in the Bible. Between 391 and 406, he produced a Latin translation of the Old Testament, the Vulgate, on the basis of the original text. He revised Ecclesiastes, Proverbs, the Song of Solomon, Chronicles, and Job. And to his Roman revision of the Psalms, he added Origen's diacritical notes. His commentary on Ecclesiastes is a milestone in exegesis because it is the first original Latin commentary that takes advantage of the Hebrew text. Jerome's best commentaries are on the minor and major prophets of the Old Testament. As for the New Testament, he explained Matthew, accenting the literal sense. He interpreted 4 of the Apostle Paul's letter, Philemon, Galatians, Ephesians, and Titus. His influence has been far-reaching and profound, on the early Middle Ages in particular. He is known particularly for his unforgettable work, Latin translation of the Bible, the Vulgate, which was translated from the original languages into Latin. It took 23 years to complete and was completed in 405, but importantly also through his work as an exegete and humanist, and because he transmitted much of Greek thought to the West. His numerous biblical, ascetical, monastic, and theological works profoundly influenced the early Middle Ages. He was one of the most accomplished scholars in the early church. He was a biblical translator and monastic leader, traditionally regarded as the most learned of the Latin fathers. He served as secretary to Pope Damascus I, and about 389 established a monastery at Bethlehem. Saint Jerome, in many quarters, Doctor of the Church, is chiefly remembered as one of the most forceful personalities and one of the most important interpreters of the Bible in the early centuries of Christianity. He died in 420 Common Era in Bethlehem, renowned for exegetical activity and for living a holy and ascetic life.